Imagine releasing just a few animals into a new environment. Not hundreds, not thousands, just a handful. Now imagine those animals multiplying into the millions, or even the billions. Imagine them wiping out native species, collapsing ecosystems, and causing damage so severe that governments spend decades trying to stop them. The terrifying part? Almost every animal on this list was introduced by humans. Some by accident, others on purpose. And every single one left destruction behind. Today, we're counting down 6 invasive animals that turned entire ecosystems into chaos. And one of them caused mammal populations to crash by up to 99%. Let's begin. Number 6. This predator became so successful that entire mammal populations practically vanished. The Burmese python is native to Southeast Asia. For years, these giant snakes were imported into the United States through the exotic pet trade. Many owners underestimated just how large they could become. Some escaped, others were released, and eventually they reached the Florida Everglades. What happened next shocked scientists. The Everglades provided everything a python could want: warm temperatures, abundant water, and endless prey. With no natural predators capable of controlling them, the snakes spread rapidly. Researchers began noticing something strange. Raccoons were disappearing. Then rabbits. Then opossums. Then foxes. In some areas, mammal populations dropped by more than 99% after pythons became established. These are not small snakes. Burmese pythons can exceed 5 meters in length and weigh more than 90 kilograms. They consume birds, deer, alligators, and almost anything else they can swallow. One python was even discovered with multiple deer inside its stomach. Florida now spends enormous resources trying to remove them. Annual hunting challenges are organized every year. Thousands have been captured. Yet experts estimate there may still be hundreds of thousands hiding throughout the wetlands. And that's what makes invasive species so dangerous. By the time people notice them, it may already be too late.
Number 5. This next invader looks beautiful. Almost too beautiful to be dangerous. But don't let its appearance fool you. This fish can devastate an entire coral reef in a matter of weeks. Lionfish are native to the Indo-Pacific region. In their natural habitat, predators help keep their populations under control. But in the Atlantic Ocean, they arrived with no such limitations. Scientists believe many were released from home aquariums during the 1980s. Once they entered Atlantic waters, their numbers exploded. A single female lionfish can release up to 2 million eggs every year, and they are incredibly efficient hunters. Lionfish consume more than 50 species of fish and countless invertebrates. Many of their victims are young fish that play critical roles in maintaining reef health. Some reefs experienced native fish declines of nearly 80% within just weeks after lionfish arrived. The consequences extend far beyond individual fish. Without algae-eating species, algae begins covering coral. Coral reefs weaken, biodiversity collapses, and entire ecosystems start changing. Divers remove lionfish whenever possible. Restaurants even serve lionfish in an attempt to encourage harvesting. But there's a problem. Lionfish can thrive far.
Number 4. Sometimes the most destructive invasions begin with what seems like a harmless decision. In this case, just 24 animals. That's all it took.
In 1859, a British settler named Thomas Austin released 24 European rabbits onto his property in Australia. He simply wanted rabbits to hunt. What happened next became one of the most famous biological disasters in history. Australia offered nearly perfect conditions, vast grasslands, mild climates, and almost no natural predators capable of controlling rabbit numbers. Rabbits can begin reproducing at only 3 months old. A single litter can contain up to 12 young, and females can produce multiple litters every year. The population exploded. Within decades, those 24 rabbits became billions. They consumed native grasses, shrubs, crops, tree bark, and seedlings. Entire landscapes were stripped bare. Topsoil blew away. Productive farmland began turning into desert. Native species that depended on the same vegetation started disappearing. Several plant species went extinct. Ground-nesting birds lost habitat. Small marsupials struggled to compete for food and shelter. Australia fought back. Massive fences were built across thousands of kilometers. Scientists introduced the myxomatosis virus. At first, it killed nearly 99% of infected rabbits. The population crashed. Then, survivors developed resistance. Another virus was introduced decades later. The same thing happened. The rabbits adapted, and they came back. Today, they still cause hundreds of millions of dollars in damage every year, which raises a troubling question. If governments can't stop rabbits, what chance do they have against the animals coming next?
So far, we've seen giant snakes collapse mammal populations. Venomous fish transform coral reefs, and rabbits multiply into the billions. But the next invaders did something even worse. They pushed entire species toward extinction. Number 3. This insect can kill wildlife, destroy farms, damage electrical equipment, and in rare cases, even kill people. Red imported fire ants first arrived in the United States around the 1930s, most likely hidden in soil carried by cargo ships from South America. At first, few people noticed them, but fire ants spread with astonishing speed. Today, they infest more than 360 million acres across the southern United States. A single colony can contain up to 500,000 workers. And when disturbed, they respond aggressively. Thousands of ants swarm out at once. Each sting injects venom that causes intense burning pain. The sensation is so severe that it inspired their name. For most people, the stings are painful. For some, they can trigger life-threatening allergic reactions. But the damage doesn't stop there. Fire ants attack ground-nesting birds, reptiles, small mammals, and countless native insects. Sea turtle hatchlings are especially vulnerable. Bird nests can be wiped out within minutes. Entire native ant communities have been displaced. Meanwhile, farmers face damaged crops. Number 2. More than 200 species disappeared because of a single decision. Lake Victoria in East Africa was once home to one of the most extraordinary collections of freshwater fish on Earth. More than 500 species of cichlids evolved there. Many existed nowhere else in the world. Then, humans introduced a new predator, the Nile Perch. The goal seemed reasonable: increase fish production, boost the local economy. Instead, it triggered one of the worst ecological disasters of the modern era. Nile perch are massive predators. They can grow over 2 meters long and weigh more than 200 kilograms. And they ate through Lake Victoria's native fish populations at a catastrophic rate. Species after species disappeared. Scientists estimate that more than 200 fish species went extinct. One of the largest vertebrate extinction events ever recorded. But extinction was only the beginning. Many of those lost fish played important ecological roles. Some consumed algae. Others helped stabilize food webs. Without them, algae spread rapidly across the lake. Oxygen levels dropped. Dead zones appeared. And entire ecosystems began collapsing. The fishing industry changed as well. Native fish that once supported local communities disappeared. Instead, large-scale export operations focused on Nile Perch. While the introduction was often celebrated as an economic success, it became a textbook example of how introducing a single predator can permanently alter an ecosystem.
At this point, you might think things can't get much worse. But the final animal didn't just damage an ecosystem. It silenced an island.
Number 1. Imagine walking through a tropical forest. The trees are still standing. The vegetation is healthy, but something feels wrong. You don't hear birds. No songs. No calls. Just silence. That's exactly what happened on the island of Guam. After World War II, brown tree snakes accidentally arrived on military cargo shipments from the Pacific region. The island had never evolved with snakes. Its birds had no defenses against this new predator. The result was devastating. Brown tree snakes spread rapidly across Guam's forests, and they began consuming native wildlife at an astonishing rate. Bird populations collapsed. One species after another disappeared. Of Guam's 12 native forest bird species, nearly all were wiped out from the island. Some survive only through captive breeding programs. The ecological consequences rippled throughout the ecosystem. Without birds controlling insects and other small animals, population balances shifted dramatically. Spider populations exploded in some areas. Parts of the forest became covered in webs. The snakes even created problems for people. Brown tree snakes frequently climb utility poles and electrical infrastructure. When they breach electrical connections, power outages occur. Guam experiences dozens of snake-related blackouts every year. The United States has spent more than $100 million attempting to control them. Scientists have tested traps, barriers, and even aerial drops of poisoned bait. Yet complete eradication remains impossible. And that's what makes invasive species so dangerous. Many arrive quietly. Some seem harmless at first. But once they become established, removing them may be impossible. From giant pythons in Florida, to lionfish in the Atlantic, to billions of rabbits across Australia, these animals transformed entire ecosystems. Not because they were evil, not because they were unusually intelligent, but because they were introduced into places where they never should have been. And this is only part of the story. In part 2, we'll look at even more invasive animals, including one responsible for billions of wildlife